Welcome to 10 Good Minutes. It's Kale here, and I wanted to talk to you today. I'm here in the classroom today, a little bit of a different venue. And at any rate, I wanted to talk to you today about language and paying attention, or why do I listen closely to the kinds of words my students use? Why do I pay attention to the way that kids talk? One of the reasons why I love teaching, frankly, and especially teaching high school students, is that if you can pay attention, if you can tune your ear in such a way, you begin to pick up on the emergence of new slang. And I love slang not because I'm trying to be cool. I make many jokes to my students about being decidedly uncool. That's maybe perhaps that's part of my own shtick as a teacher. But I love paying attention to slang because a couple of reasons. The first reason that comes to mind is that slang points to, I think, a kind of the vitality of language, and it is a close twin to what I would argue is a poetic use of language. Slang traditionally has been a way for in-group and out-group signification. In other words, if me and my friends use certain words to mean certain things, then you know and I know that we are in the know. And there is a kind of we that is created in the sharing of common language. And the emergence of slang allows users of those particular words to show that they are part of the group. Maybe they know things or they identify in certain ways. So I think of slang as a kind of proto-poetry. I forget the name of that test. There's a specific kind of test that's going to come to me in just a minute, and I'm forgetting it. At any rate, the point is that slang is a kind of proto-poetry, or at least it's a search for and a grasping of an elusive quality of a thing. And so when you can use a phrase or a word to signify something, and then another person says, yes, I get what that is, a connection is made almost immediately, and it is rather elusive. So today in class, we were talking about the word or the phrase low key, as in, low key, I think you did a really good job on that test, or low key, I kind of love that song. And it signifies that something lacks a full recognition or a full appreciation. And I think that's true, right? And as you try to explain what low key means, you start to recognize that these condensed little bite-sized mediums of exchange bear with them a whole world of meaning, just below. And so another little bit of slang that I've picked up on, and you see this on the internet and other places, and it's not just for high school students, but especially internet is filled with kind of jargon and acronyms and all these kinds of things, signaling again whether you sort of get it or not. And I was thinking today of the words that they're paired in my mind, simp and pick-me. And so you might be saying, what is a 50-plus-year-old man talking about simps and pick-me's on 10 Good Minutes? Well, I think both of these phrases hold or carry a kind of meaning, carry a kind of attitude, and carry a kind of judgment. So, a simp is someone who is very fawning and excessively submissive or attentive, particularly to women. You tend to see simp associated with men or boys, and you see pick-me associated with girls or women. So I'm going to kind of keep it there, although recognizing that there is a certain amount of creative fluidity that you can employ here. So a simp is someone who basically fawns all over women online. It's like, you are so amazing. Oh, I know those men are so terrible. Whatever, fill in the blank. There's all kinds of different ways to be a simp, right? You never call a woman or a girl out. You are engage in kind of flattery. And when someone calls you a simp, the idea is that you are somehow being unmanly. And so I do think that that sort of works on that level. Anyway, the word pick me is also an interesting one. Again, tends to be female coded. And this is a woman who is willing to do almost anything for male approval. So much to the point that everything they do is oriented toward getting male attention. And significantly, it already implies a kind of relationship because the pick-me will oftentimes throw their friends, other women, other girls under the bus in the attempt to kind of get and gain and maintain the attention of men. Now, without getting into sort of that other secondary layer, is a simp always a man and is a pick-me always a woman, I find it interesting because the kids use this kind of language in such a way that it bears a kind of moral judgment from the get-go. In other words, the simp is either forsaking his kind of like masculine responsibilities to sort of do manly masculine things and instead is being a bit obsequious in trying to gain the approval of women. One of the guys that I like to follow on social media, and even read one of his books, his name is Gad Sad. He has a name for this kind of strategy. He's, of course, an evolutionary biologist. So when you talk about strategies, it's sort of like modes of being in operation in order for you to attain some kind of an end. And anyway, the word or the phrase that he uses is sneaky effort, as in, sneaky effort. And the idea is that you forsake kind of manly displays or obvious displays of manly competence in order to kind of get in good, ingratiate yourself with the girls. It's kind of like a backdoor way of getting inside. It is anyway, and clearly the idea is that it is not manly. Pick-me's also bring with it that sense that the pick-me girl is doing everything not for herself, for a sense of what she thinks is good or what she thinks is right, but the pick-me is basically doing a kind of passive seduction for male attention. And what fascinates me about both the simp and the pick-me is that there's this sense that neither of these types of people are being authentic. Now, what are they not being authentic to is a deeper question, but I like this idea that slang, which is a way of showing that you are authentic to other people who use that same kind of language, slang also gets at this deeper reality. And if you've ever had any of your friends or your family members, your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister or you yourself have been in the military, for instance, being in the military has a whole kind of array of specific acronyms and specific words, and there's a whole language of the military. And I don't know this for sure, but I bet that slang and language usage is even particular to the different branches of service. But if you ever talk with someone who's in or just been out of the Army, that they sort of rattle off these things, and civilians like me have no real idea what they're talking about. Okay, so why do I care about this as an English teacher? Well, I find it very helpful to use slang as a demonstration that the language we use is almost always fundamental. Can I say that? The language that we use is poetic first, right? That prose, the clear, explained sense of a thing, is actually secondary to the primary mode of poetic language. And poetic language always carries more than is immediately obvious. And so you might say, well, the prose meaning of, the line from Romeo and Juliet, parting is such sweet sorrow. Well, in prose sense, in prose terms, sweet sorrow is a contradiction. But in poetic terms, sweet sorrow carries with it both that sense of being filled with sort of a reservoir of sweetness, but being cut off, which is sorrowful, but it's sweet that you know this person, but it's sorrowful that you're separated. So it kind of does these two things at the same time. And the prose impulse is to clear out all of the noise so that you can experience the signal. But poetry, right, in this sort of very fascinating way, poetry is an attempt to tune in both to signal and to noise, that somehow in poetic language it means more, not less, than the prose sense of things. And so when I can use the kind of emergent slang that my students use, in this case we're talking about simp or pick-me, I can tell them, well, since you understand what the word simp means, or you understand what the word pick-me means, it means you're already engaging in some kind of poetic sense that language is about communion. Language is about sort of capturing some elusive quality of being that you would otherwise not be able to understand. So therefore, if I can get you to make sense out of the fact that you know what simp means or pick me means, then I can take you to a sonnet. Then I can take you to some elevated language and say, look, say in Shakespeare or Milton, Milton is sort of using language to jam more, not less, into a sort of a condensed, compressed, supersaturated solution of meaning. So anyway, pay attention to slang, because slang is a way that you can make sense, I think, out of the poetic impulse. Until next time, see y'all later. Like and subscribe, please. Like and subscribe.